So for you astute listeners who stuck around to the end of last week's episode, when we were spitballing ideas for our Gaiman-themed episodes, what we were going to do, where we covered the books of Neil Gaiman. I think some of the names floating around were Getting Gay with Gaiman, Gaiman Guys, and Spencer's favorite, Getting Gay with Gay Guys. Which I don't know where Gaiman falls into play with that one.
Yeah, that might be a different podcast.
Regardless, or I don't know. I kind of like that name now, but
I wonder which one Mike's gonna vote for.
I know what he's voting for. Not a laughing matter. Apparently, since the recording of that episode, some accusations have come out about Gaiman not getting gay with gay guys, but forcing himself upon ladies.
Yeah.
I don't know the validity of any of the claims. I didn't look into it too much, but just for the sake of not even in trouble, just doing something in bad taste. Yeah. We're just going to put the kibosh on the Gaiman episodes for now until more news comes out. And then I'm not going to lie, I'm still going to read his work.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. Unless it turns out he's a complete devious asshole.
Yeah, like something like on like the Weinstein level, like, you know. But if he's just kind of like a little bit like of an asshole.
Yeah, like I said, I from what I read, it just sounded like a lot of he said, she said by the seashore. Something. Sucking by the seashore.
I was trying to think of what the Limp Bizkit, like the he said, she said, like he did that in a song. I forget what it.
When you start quoting Fred Durst, you know your podcast has gone to shit.
It's only the code open.
Well, yeah, I guess. I wasn't really going to go into it, but I did finish reading The Ethereal Nightmares. Twisted Tale, an anthology of Twisted Tales, the one I'm in. I finally got around to reading it last week, and I finished it this week. And I'm not going to give a detailed review or anything, but I will say that all the stories were excellent. It's a very good anthology. The writing was... And I found something interesting. The better written the story and the best stories in here by what seemed to be the most established authors, like the authors who were doing some bigger things, almost no social media presence from them.
Oh, really?
Because when I read these anthologies that I'm in, I like to reach out to the other authors if I like their work. Like, hey, I really liked your story, blah, blah, blah. I only was able to do that with one person. Everyone else I couldn't find, they had author sites and stuff, but I couldn't find any social media. So it seems that maybe...
It's possible.
Yeah, and I just think of Nick Obergon, for instance. Like, he's on social media, but he doesn't have fucking crazy followers. He just posts random shit on there. So I'm just like, maybe the better the writer, the less active they are on social media.
Honestly, I feel like a lot of his Instagram is for his traveling.
Yeah.
Because doesn't he still write travel articles or something?
I'm not sure if he writes travel articles still, but he still does a bunch of travel.
So I feel like that kind of helps with that too.
Yeah. So that is worthwhile collection to read, not just for my story, but for the other stories as well.
And I haven't got around to reading too much of it myself, but I do have my copy, and just even looking at the copy here,
nice.
It's a nice looking book. It's well put together,
There is a downside.
Oh, yeah?
As of now, if you order the hardback, this nice fancy edition I got here, it's $31.
Oh.
But the paperback is still $12 or something cheap, yeah. And then you can get the Kindle for a few bucks, whatever it is. So it's affordable, just the fancy hardback, I think. Publisher only did a limited run. Not a limited run, but, not a million.
Right.
Either that or just paper prices went up or something stupid. That happens as well.
All the time.
All the fudging time. And also, one final review. Spencer has 38 seconds to tell me about Twister. I don't even know the name of it, the new Twister movie.
And that's what it's just Twisters.
Twisters. Okay, so tell me about Twisters.
It's not as good as the first one.
Okay.
Not really good writing. Dialogue, not great.
Was the first one good, actually, though?
I mean, I actually was... It's
suspenseful,
funny.
maybe.
It was funny because, on A&E, they were showing, it's TV edited version, but... So, I was watching a little bit of it, and it wasn't too bad. You forget, go back and, look at the actors that were in. There was, a lot of, people who ended up, being, really good and stuff like that. And, I had no idea who anybody in this movie was. Just a lot of weird-looking young people. Just looking real weird. The main guy, he's really good at squinting.
Squinting?
He can squint a lot with a cowboy hat on.
And that is Spencer's review. You hit the 38 seconds. So, good job, buddy.
That's pretty much it.
So, shit movie?
I mean, it's a fun movie to,
Don't pay for.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you could definitely wait till a streaming thing or something.
All right. Twister, not good.
But a lot of people in the theater. I was surprised.
People like stupid movies.
Yeah.
So Twister shit. Ethereal Nightmares, not
Good.
shit. That's good.
Real good.
Getting gay with Gaiman, not happening.
No.
And as long as Haruki Murakami doesn't do anything nefarious, we won't have to resort to molesting with Murakami or anything like that. We'll just...
I'm just waiting for the bombshell where they'll just like, Stephen King has been, and it's going to be like, no, I don't want to hear it.
Turns out he was the real it. He was the real Pennywise.
He's been just dragging kids into the sewers for decades.
Oh, please don't be diddling. Please don't be diddling. Front page, Stephen King, kid diddler. Oh, God damn it. Yeah, I hope that doesn't happen. Or at least let me read all his work before, then I can decide. Anyway, we are, and I'm sure if you listen to the intro of this cold open, he's just like, oh, fuck, I don't want these guys reviewing my book. Well, too bad. We already are, I bought it. And you bought it.
Yeah, and
we both bought it.
And I think it kind of strangely goes into the book.
It does, with a lot of inappropriate acts. So we are covering David Scott Hayes' Not Suited for Work, NSFW. We'll be discussing that momentarily after these musical interludes. Is interlude the right word? That's like a break between something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, intro, interlude. It's all the same. You are listening to the Drunken Pen Writing Podcast. I'm your host, Caleb James. With me today, Spencer, the Green Bay Gabagool Greaser Church.
Gabagool.
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 I don't know if there's a lot of Italians in Green Bay. A lot of cheeseheads.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking Polacks, Polish people. I don't know if they like cheese. I don't really know much about anything these days.
I don't know much about nothing.
I do know we read NSFW by David Scott Hay, who was on the podcast many moons ago.
Yes, some moons ago.
And now I feel like if we go back and listen to that episode, we'll sound like bumbling idiots trying to discuss a book we didn't read then. But we did read it eventually when we finally had the time. And 10 years from now, when we cover some of our other guest books, they'll be real excited.
You're right.
Like, yeah, this guy's finally read my book. So what is NSFW, Spencer? It is a story set in the world of social media moderators. @Sage and @Juniper must survive their first 90 days to qualify for health benefits and a life-changing mystery bonus. As they flag a nonstop torrent of the most heinous not suited for work videos, their coping mechanisms expand to include on-the-job sex, drugs, and a jellyfish. But when copium is no longer an option, @Sage and @Juniper turn to a more bizarre form of therapy, intimacy. Are you familiar with that?
No.
Getting intimate. It doesn't matter what sex anymore.
Right.
You can fuck a table. As long as you're romantic, people accept it. Yeah, anyway, so meanwhile, a stream of ominous warning videos keeps popping up, coming soon, hinting at an event that will alter the American landscape. The clock starts now, and I wouldn't normally do this, but one of the reviews, I'm actually going to, just on the back blurb, because I actually found this was apt. In the tradition of Clockwork Orange, Fight Club, and Mr. Robot, NSFW will break your brain, and then it will break your heart. Another one of the reviews said that this is a book you need to reread.
Yeah.
I do find that fitting as well. And also a note on the names. The characters in here's names are their handles. Their user handles. So when I said @Sage, I'm guessing because it's @SA, is that a greater sign? AG3?
Yeah.
So I'm saying Sage, could be Saga, or
Yeah.
I'll just go with Sage. And then @Juniper's pretty self-explanatory. It's @JUN1P3R.
Yeah.
Which is,
and there's more like that.
yeah, there's one that's like Skinny Lenny.
Mhm.
It's the main character, and it just like has short N, like Skinny, SKINY. So I just assume Skinny Lenny. And there's another one. What was there, like @Mom or something?
Yeah, and then there was
also a note, I read this a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
Spencer just read it recently, so he should be much more clear on these things than I am.
Yeah.
So that was our review. Oh, no. Okay. So we'll start off with the usual. On a scale out of 5 whiskey shots, what would you give this book? I rated it a 4 out of 5. I was more generous on Goodreads originally with a 5-star rating, but it would have been, because they don't have half stars, I probably would have did a 4.5. I changed it to 4 on reflection because it took me a minute to get into the book. Like it probably took me not half, but close to really get into the flow of the book. But what really boosted the number up for me was the ending and how everything wrapped up.
Yeah.
Also, this is written kind of in the style of those Henry Rollins books I was reading. Like how every chapter is like more like little vignettes,
right?
Like little slices of the person's life, or little like blocks of paragraphs that are just like one scene and then something else happens in the next one. So I was already used to that. I didn't really have to get used to that style, but you never read anything like that as far as I know.
Not really, no. No, at least not to that degree, at least, you know.
Right.
But I'd probably give it like a 3.
A 3?
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the social commentary in this book because a lot of it, because these people, I don't want to go into the story too deeply because we have a time limit here.
Yeah.
10 minutes.
Yeah, do it.
No, I would never get anything done in 10 minutes. But I really enjoyed the social commentary because you had these people who take these jobs working for a corporation that basically monitors online videos and live television, things like that. And they have a kill switch. So something like, say there's a shooting. As soon as they see somebody's head pop off, they can hit that kill switch. And there's like a 90-second delay, I think. So they get to see it right before the people who are watching would see it. So they could kill it before they ever, to protect the eyes of the innocents and all that. With their job comes the fact that they have to watch just nonstop heinous videos.
Yep.
Talking like the worst, like rapes, murders, accidents, just anything you can think of. And it gives you a Slaughterhouse-Five feel with the violence or even a Blood Meridian actually would be good because it's so commonplace for them. What they're seeing that it's just like flat.
Yeah, it doesn't really hold anything anymore because it's so commonplace. Like,
yeah, it's all they're seeing. So they end up joking about it. They get the gallows humor, but also they get PTSD, like almost all of them, which shows up in random weird ways throughout the book. And then, talked about on the back blurb about the coping mechanisms. They have some weird ones, like sucking an old lady's tit in a fucking lactorium, which is in the building, which is very strange. They do floggings in an office. It's the weirdest office setting.
When I first read that, I had to go back and I had to make sure, like, lactorium, like lactorium, like that I was reading it correctly because like
that's what it's called, I guess.
I don't know if I've ever seen that word in print before. Like I want to be like. But as I was reading, I was like, yep, no, yeah, it's a lactorium, all right.
Now, what was a problem for me, and I can see people bowing out of the book early because of this, is the way the story's told in these little chunks. Things unravel sometimes at weird interspersed like spots, and also at other times.
Like out of order, too, sometimes.
Yeah, like a little bit out of order. So, for instance, for like a good chunk of this book, I thought the protagonist, Sage, was like in his 20s or something. Like I couldn't get a time, and maybe I misread something, or like when I got into it, I just wasn't paying attention enough. But I was full on thinking like him and the Juniper, who's starting kind of a weird relationship together, are in their 20s. But then there was a line about the main character, when he remembered being a kid watching Alien in theater when he was like 11 or something. I was like, wait a minute, wasn't Alien in like the 70s? It's like, well, that puts a, but then later there's just a straight up, like an incident report or something like that has like his age and eye color, whatever, shit like that. And he was like, I think 49.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, so he's older, a lot older than I expected. And then it made his behavior weirder to me.
It did, because it's like,
because it was a very immature behavior. Though it does circle back later on why he's acting the way he does.
True, yeah, whenever you kind of find, when there's a reveal that happens.
Yeah, there is a very big reveal that happens that explains why he would take such a fucked up job, why he's 49 years old or 48 or whatever he is, in this situation where he's kind of like, he's not a bum, but I mean, he has this job that's kind of shitty, and he's with this girl that's weird, and they're just like, they turn their apartment into like a, I don't know, like a Garden of Eden situation where there's like they put dirt and grass everywhere.
And they have they kind of turn into like a greenhouse kind of.
Yeah, like a living greenhouse and everything. And they're just always naked and doing shit. And he's on these like brain meds, like depression meds or something, like he can't get a hard on. And which was a sign I was like, was he 20 or 50? Because that makes it. But then like he's doing that, and they're just constantly eating mushrooms and taking pills and doing weird shit. But it's written, again, almost in the Kurt Vonnegut style, where it's like, this is probably supposed to be more serious than it reads.
Yeah.
Which is on purpose, because when you go through the book with the PTSD, the guy, you find out his is not just due because he has like this tinnitus in his ear too, like a constant ringing. You find out
and a scar.
Yeah, and he has a scar in his abdomen. You find out his PTSD is not from the job watching all these fucked up movies, which there's multiple like managers and stuff who kill themselves after working at this place for a while.
There's a very high turnover for this place.
Yeah, that's why like if you're there for 3 months, you get health insurance, but then you also get like this big bonus thing that nobody knows what it is, but that's the big mystery bonus, and that is because it's such a high turnover rate because it's such a fucking awful job. But he does it, and it almost seems like indifferent to it, but then you see him, he keeps doing like these self-destructive things, but he's like a jokey kind of interesting character that you're like, I don't know how to feel about this guy. And then he's like doing stuff with dudes and the girl and everybody's fucking everybody. And you're just like, I don't know. Because this is like a near future story, so it's still set like now, kind of.
Right. Yeah, I would say like with like a 20 years at the most, kind of.
Yeah, like it's very realistic in its setting.
Or actually, you think it would be kind of, it's like a hyper time now, because if he's almost 50 and saw aliens when he was a kid, it would still have to be kind of now, though.
Well, that's what I thought. I think it was just like a more...
It'd make a modern...
Slightly more modern version. Of, like the episode of The Orville where they go to that planet where everyone's like addicted to like... their devices and like they rate each other.
Right, yeah.
It's like a whole rating culture. It's basically just like that kind of story. It's still supposed to be like now, but just like if we slightly advance in this way or that way.
Mm-hmm.
So there's more Orwellian, like everyone's on camera, kind of already realistic.
It's everybody has a device.
Everyone has a device,
and like multiple people like either get hurt or killed or accidentally kill somebody else because they're on their device not paying attention and stuff.
What I really liked was how it went into distraction. And the overabundance of information and media and people's like short attention span.
Yeah,
and that's where
like the overstimulation.
Yeah, and I don't know if
that's maybe why he wrote it like that.
Yeah, like where it's in these choppy, almost like an ADD. I'm going from this scene and then I'm immediately going to something else and this, and like it jumps around, and it's written basically because it even uses like hashtags in between scenes. But like, look, there's just this page alone has 1, 2, 3, 4 different scenes that unfold. A lot of it, I think, is supposed to represent like the ADD generation of, we're so used to TikTok and stuff that if you had a book, how would that read? You know, like these rapid fire instances of thought and just what you're experiencing. Because when you're so glued to your phone and everything too, your experiences are like your real experiences are just like flashes.
Well, I think one thing we could also talk about too is like, because like at first, like I was kind of thinking like maybe this is like him, like it almost kind of like that pestilential. How do you say, like when like writing in a journal? Like I thought
epistolary.
I thought it was almost kind of like these were like kind of like entries into like, you know, into a thing. But then like the way that like how the book kind of ends, you know, you don't ever see him like with a computer or something, like, you know what I mean? So that was like one thing that kind of got me. And I know like I'm normally more lenient on like, well, the way that it's written, like how, like who's telling this story, but it's written in that because like there's no quotation marks for like, it's almost like he's writing a letter to her almost. Or is he writing a letter to, it's almost like he's sometimes talking to her and then sometimes talking to like the reveal, like what, you know, the person that, you know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. And like the ending of this too is like a hard hitting ending, but it almost has like a couple endings.
Yeah,
like it has like a climax, but then it has like a few climaxes.
I did kind of have like the Lord of the Rings feeling, kind of like, okay, it could have been over. All right, it could have been over.
Like the legit ending was too weird for me. That's probably what knocked me down a star, was like the actual conclusion of the book. I was like, what the fuck? Like that's just I mean I can't. It's hard to talk about it without giving it away. But it kind of makes sense because it's almost like, okay, we're trying to show how the way we treated certain people or things we don't understand in the past, how it can be related to now. And it's almost like showing you, like the way, I can't talk about it without giving it away. But just like there's a weird comparison there of like almost a archaic style versus the modern tech that I thought was cool. But I was just like, that's too fucking weird for this. Like, this is a weird book, but here I'll delete this part. But she gets...
yeah, that was kind of like, that kind of threw me like.
So like I get what he was going with that, but at the same time I'm like that's still too fucking weird for. I mean, a lot of shit happens and this world's crazy, but still.
Well, and again, I think it's in the way that it's written. Well, we were just as we were reading this book about like. I think I would like it more if it was just more like of a traditional written kind of, even if it had like, the flashbacks and stuff like that, you know what I mean?
It could be the exact same novel.
Yeah.
But if it was like Coin Locker Babies, which has like a similar, not like the ending is actually way more visceral and ridiculous. Like you're like, holy fuck, like this all happened.
Yeah.
But Coin Locker Babies is a smaller version of that, but still pretty fucking awful. So I could see like this being a regular narrative would be cool too. I liked the story the way it was written. It just took me a minute to get into it. But I would like your opinion on what you didn't like about it since you gave it a 3.
My main thing is just kind of like that. Like I appreciate the effort and then like I have this idea to tell this story. Like I appreciate it and I get it. I mean, like, I don't, like, I wouldn't try to do that, like, right now. Like, I don't think I'm...
Got the skill set.
Right now to try to do something, to that extent. I just feel like, at least for me, it didn't, like, land for me. Mm-hmm. That was kind of, like, the main thing for me. Because, like, I like the story idea and the stuff that's going on and like, what happens. It's just the way he decided to tell the story.
Now, do you think if you did a reread... Knowing the story now, you would spot a lot of the things that foreshadow or...
Yeah, but then also, too, like, I also kind of feel like...
That takes some of the impact out.
Well, also that, like, I shouldn't maybe have to read your book multiple times to get it.
Well, yeah, but you don't read literary fiction either.
Yeah, that's true.
This isn't just a book made straight for entertainment.
Yeah.
And this is an experimental book, so...
True, and
as far as experimental books I've read, this is definitely one of the more readable ones.
Oh, definitely. Like, I wouldn't, I wouldn't probably tell somebody not to read it. I would just, give them the caveat of, like, it's a little bit different. Yeah. You're gonna have to get used to it. But like I said, that's kind of like the main thing because the characters were kind of good. I think, and then maybe like and then the way that it's written, like I said, just with some of like with it being written in like that noted style of like, so there's not like any like quotation or there's no real like dialogue or or anything kind of like that.
Yeah, you're not a fan of, like I said, I read the first novel from the Henry Rollins 5 novels, and it's just like little chunks. Like every like couple paragraphs, it will go into like a different vignette or something. Is how I'm going to describe it. I don't have a problem with that, and I've read works where there's no quotation marks. I'm fine with that. I wasn't confused on who was talking ever or anything.
No, it wasn't. Yeah, I mean, things were clear. Like, I wasn't ever really confused or anything like that. It just, I don't know, just like its style, you know what I mean?
And again, that might also be supposed to be a representation
of how people write and like just how they talk now online.
And then just also the impersonal nature of the social media age.
Yeah.
Because like all these people get really close and nobody knows each other's name.
Yeah. Even to like, there's like a big thing at the end when they're like, tell us who, like, we don't know each other's names. Like, I mean, like I said, it's very, very ambitious. Like, you know what I mean? To tell that story in the way that, because like I said, like we were talking about like that, that's the easy way.
If I remember correctly,
which is why I probably would have done it because it was the easy way.
Yeah, I think David Hay said this was a book he like almost stopped writing multiple times. Like he had a real hard time.
I mean, I could see that too. Or even just probably you would need a break from it too. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm looking up. There was one review I saw in here that fucking cracked me up how shitty it was.
Oh, yeah? Oh, the review itself?
Yeah, so I wanted to find that review if it still exists. It was on Goodreads. The guy or girl still gave it a 2-star, even though they like lambasted it.
But like I said, I enjoyed it enough that I do want to give his first novel, Foundation, or not Foundation,
The Fountain.
The Fountain.
When he was talking about that, I really want to read that one. That sounds really interesting.
Yeah, I would definitely. I still want to give that one a try.
I mean, I really like his writing.
Yeah, like
his writing's really good, and it was really funny and really witty. Also, another detriment, which is not from his fault at all, is there's a lot of references in here, and I didn't get some of them.
Okay.
Just because, like, either I wasn't born at the time, or I just didn't know specific, like, what is that referencing? And I don't know. Too lazy. I didn't look them up. But there was a lot of references. And also, if you're not obviously tech savvy, some of like the internet slang or logo, lingo stuff might go over your head as well. But yeah, I definitely would like to read his other work too, just to see how that is. And it still has one of the fucking coolest covers.
Oh, the cover is nice.
It's like a perfect representation of the book too, like what it means, and like you're hooked. And
right.
Also, I would like to say this would have been a 3-star for me too if it wasn't for like the crazy ending and how everything wrapped up. Because for a good chunk of the book, I got the Holden Caulfield Catcher in the Rye feel, where I was like, I don't fucking like these characters. Because they're just like, until you find out why they're acting the way they are, I'm just like, they're fucking annoying.
Right.
It's like, get your shit together, dude. Like, what are you just fucking rolling around in your apartment acting all fucking, oh, I'm just too good. Like, I'm too smart to do this stuff. I don't, my fucking boss writes on a typewriter and he wears in his underwear. And it's like these quirky characters, but they all just are. Like one chick is just always on a fucking desk treadmill and won't get off, or like a bike, desk bike, and will never get off.
And they all work in this weird, crazy company that that in a way kind of controls the world, and then in a weird way.
And then that skinny Lenny guy's like a conspiracy nut, I think, kind of. But he's like transgendered or not? Is he like just a cross dresser, or is he actually transgendered? Because he's like he slowly starts looking like a woman. But there's even some dialogue in there about how he can't be a woman, which I thought was a little off-putting. It's like one of the girls was telling him, like, I forget, something about like walk down the street, and basically just like saying that like no matter what you do, you're not actually gonna know what it's like to be a woman, technically.
There's these weird twins.
Yeah, these weird fucking twins that are like all everybody's sucking the lady's tit, which is weird. Like
everybody's sucking mom's tit.
Here's the thing. So it was written like, oh, that lady's not that much older. She's like a cougar, right? But then we find out the protagonist is like 49 and he considers her old or older, so I'm like, is she like 60 something?
That's
so how does she have milk in her tits? Does she have milk in her tits? I don't know if I ever got that. By the way, this book is put out by Whiskey Tit. So it makes sense that they had tit sucking. Let me read this review.
Read that review.
I hope it doesn't give anything away, but I wanted to know if you agree with any of this, because I didn't get this from this book at all. When I read it. Raunchy anti-gun crybaby attempt at being a shocker. Wannabe Fight Club, John dies at the end, edginess. Can't say I recommend. I don't usually love the cyberpunk genre style anyway. So why are you fucking reading it? Listening mostly for the fascinating technological bits, but I honestly just didn't think this was a good book. This isn't a techno thriller or something.
I was gonna say, would you consider this cyberpunk?
No, I wouldn't.
That's what
futuristic, kind of, but I wouldn't consider it cyberpunk. Solid narration. I thought some of the voice modulations were going to be a bit much, but I don't recall there being.
Wait, did he listen to it then?
Any beyond the intro? Oh, I don't know. Does that mean
it kind of sounds like he listened, because like
I don't know if there's an audiobook of this or not.
Because it sounds like he listened to it.
The whole stressful, dramatic. I'm not gonna read that part because that's the thing at the end. Me and several classmates. Okay, so this is his personal gripe. Though, it's basically the gun stuff. Me and several classmates had guns in our vehicles in the high school parking lot. My principal walked out with me and a buddy to see a new gun when he got it. My high school never had a shooting. Guns aren't the problem. Demographics, multiculturalism, unconstitutional laws, and poor training are the problem. So basically,
I'd like to know the age of the guy who gave that review.
Basically, guns not in the hands of white people were the problem to this person. Despite the ease of stopping school shootings, they won't end anytime soon. They're emotional, they get a reaction. If there was a certain entity, gosh, I don't know who, interested in turning the population against guns, it would be in their best interest for these tragedies to continue. And he goes on a little bit more about dumb shit. So I forgot the guy, like I knew he was bitching about the guns. I didn't realize it was like a straight gun nut. But just because you're fucking high school in 1980s Montana or something, like didn't have a problem with guns, doesn't mean that's like fucking
modern day now.
Like. Yeah, it's like, come on, dick. But did you get any of the anti-gun references or stuff? Like I get like the violence was a big portion of the book,
right? And
there is a part of it where it goes into like gun violence more specifically and like the traumatic aftermath of it, but it doesn't actually, as far as I know, preach anti-gun shit.
No, not really.
Any more than the other messaging in this book.
Yeah, not that I can recall. Like I said, it's just more, like if anything, I would be like, if I took anything more, it'd be more just about the violence and how numb people will come to strangers getting hurt.
Yeah, people were just desensitized to it. Yeah.
That's what I take, like the messaging I take most out of the book. And I mean, I guess you could throw like gun stuff into that, but like it wasn't at the forefront.
Yeah, I just didn't get an anti-gun vibe from this book. I mean, it could be in there. But I wasn't looking for it, but put it this way, since I didn't take it from the book, obviously it wasn't in your face. This is an anti-gun book.
Right.
I can't really remember like a lot of anti-gun sentiments other than just like showing what happens with guns.
Right,
is
yeah,
that an anti-gun
like at shootings and stuff.
Oh, if people got shot to death, is that an anti-gun sentiment? Maybe you got a fucking problem then. If that's what you're taking away is, well, anytime there's an instance where people are killed by guns, then we have a problem, not with the guns, but with the people. Maybe.
Well, that's almost, it sounds like that guy with that review kind of had the like, only the guy with the small dick gets mad at the small dick joke.
Yeah.
Kind of vibe to it. Like, you know.
You're looking for it if you, exactly. So I thought it was a solid book. I really liked it.
Yeah.
Like I said, if
it didn't hit me, like, you know what I mean, as
this is also something that you normally wouldn't read. You would probably be more likely to read maybe, I don't know if we could say the genre, but the style.
Yeah.
Wouldn't it be up your alley, but the subject matter.
Yeah.
Like the techy, sci-fi-ish elements, the dystopian kind of elements. Like that's all up your alley.
Yeah, I like
that's
that.
actually not up my alley
Right.
normally. Like, I mean, I like Blade Runner, the movie and stuff, but when it comes to like the books and stuff, I don't generally gravitate towards that. For like the literary elements, I really enjoyed it. But yeah, I thought this was a really solid book, and it was definitely fucked up. Not the most fucked up book I've ever read.
Though I would say if like you're somebody who would maybe get easily offended or on a fan, because like, you know, the not safe for work, like,
yeah, obviously.
It actually has a fucking an old school, like on the back, a printed like on the CDs there, the printer advisory like sticker, like, you know what I mean? Like, I haven't seen that since a fucking record in the like in the early 2000s. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that would just be a thing. If you're not a fan of that kind of stuff, you might not like it, but
you also may be full of dookie.
yeah, that's also fair.
You probably aren't listening to this podcast either. If you're
you know what? That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
Yeah,
I just like to put that out there because, you know, I don't want somebody, you know, to read it or so. Like, because you can imagine like some young kid went that and took that to school, and the teacher found like, what are you reading? Oh my god.
Also, I don't know what this says about me, but I think it's a testament to the book that I wanted more graphic violence shown.
Yeah.
Or at least talked about, but that's because I'm from this fucking generation where I'm so desensitized to violence that I want to see more violence.
And I think the thing, because like, as I was reading this, I was like, I could see this as like a mini series, or I was really seeing it as like a comic book series, like, you know what I mean? Because then that you could really get in, like you were saying, you could see the goriness of it.
Well, this could be even like a Netflix show,
yeah,
like a 10-episode show. And
I think the way that it's written, like with that, with like the weird thing, I think it would work better in that medium, you know. Like I said, I just think it just didn't hit. It just hit weird for me. Was all.
My main gripe, I think some of the character quirkiness could have been toned down, especially at the beginning.
It's like if everybody's quirky, nobody's quirky.
Yeah, it was just like a little too much. Like I said, I was more annoyed by the characters than found any of them endearing. As the story went on, when you found out some of like why the characters were the way they are, it was more understandable and made it more enjoyable for me. But mainly, it was the actual subject matter, not the characters that I cared for. I honestly didn't care what happened to any of the characters,
right,
by the end of it. So, but like I said, the writing, again, I didn't actually have a problem with the way it was written, like the stylistic choices. So that didn't bump my number down. Mainly just the characters, and I thought the very, very ending was a little strange.
Yeah.
There's also, which you did not finish, was there's a fictional novel in here that's written by a guy named Ray Gunn.
Yeah.
It's a sci-fi novel, and his son, Ray Gunn Jr., is like writing a book or something. But it's supposed to be like a 1950s Soviet-era novel or something. Well, there's the first chapter of that novel at the end of this, so it's just like a sci-fi piece. But it touches on some of the things that are in the book, but in like just straight like straight sci-fi.
Right.
I thought that was really enjoyable. If you ever just wanted to make that a whole book, I would like that as well.
Yeah, like I said, and like when I started to read the first couple of pages, like I was enjoying that. I just didn't get time.
Yeah, you didn't have enough time.
But like and then that was like one of the reasons why I want to go back to his first novel too, because I like the writing, and honestly, I think if it was just like the weird storytelling, like the weird breakups, and maybe more of a linear, or maybe just it not be linear and more of a straightforward. I think maybe it was just a little bit of too many things. Like, you know what I mean? Like if you took one of them out, I would maybe enjoy it a little bit more. But
I wish we would have read this before he came on, because I would have liked to discuss how he laid this out.
Yeah, I would like to have that. Maybe we're gonna have to have him back on.
Maybe, just to because it is pretty fucking.
And then, that way we could have more of an in-depth spoiler talk about it.
Yeah,
which I think would do the book a better justice too.
Yeah, definitely. I would recommend this book to anyone that's interested in especially experimental fiction.
Yeah, if you want to try something new, I would say check it out.
Yeah, and like I said, if he made a t-shirt with this cover, I would buy the shirt.
Oh, yeah.
That's a badass cover. I really like that. It's like neon and it's freaky.
And his head's blowing out with a jellyfish. That just
says either graphic novel or Netflix adaptation, anime or something.
You could literally take that same cover and use it for the graphic novel.
Yeah, like there's so much you could pull from this universe he created, where it's close enough to our universe to be real, but still like dystopian enough where you're like, I could see us getting there, but I hope not.
It is very kind of like almost like you were saying, like Black Mirror-y, like, like a Black Mirror kind of story, where it's like, oh, how like if we're not careful, how technology could turn us in this weird way.
Which we're already seeing.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway, we talked about that longer than I thought we were going to be, because I've been so busy lately doing shit that I have not had time to come up with like notes or even.
Like you said, it's been a while since you finished it a little bit ago.
Yeah, I finished a couple weeks ago, so I didn't even get like a refresher on reading a lot of stuff. So I hope I didn't ramble too much. But if you want to check us out on the old interwebs, at DPW Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and X, and also YouTube. That's Jewish YouTube. I do that joke about once a month, and you always forget.
I like it though.
YouTube.
YouTube.
Whatever you said was not it.
YouTube.
Just say the U weird.
YouTube.
Yoy.
Is it just like a whole bunch of yarmulkes and like dreidels and stuff? Like how like videos on how to keep your yarmulke nice and clean and pressed while you're not using it and stuff like that?
No, it's just a bunch of videos of fucking Ben Shapiro being weird about his sister. You can follow Spencer at what were you? The Green Bay Gooch Gawker. You were Green Bay.
Yeah.
The Green Bay Glizzy
Gobbler.
Glizzy Gobbler.
No, the Gabagool Gobbler or something. Gabagool Greaser, yeah.
The Green Bay Gabagool Greaser.
Greasing that Gabagool.
You could gobble Gabagool.
I mean, what else would you do with Gabagool other than gobble it?
Gobble that Gabagool.
Gobble, gobble.
Thank you for listening. You can follow me at CalebJamesK.com to see some of the books I got out right now. And I would appreciate if you buy them, even though I don't think I get any extra money from anything I'm in right now. But in the future, I'm hoping I'll get some royalties on shit. But thank you for listening, and we will check you out next week. I haven't decided if we're going to start the Murakami Minute for next week's episode. Probably not. So we have guest, I think, book 2. In August.
You were saying something about that.
So I should probably look up when they're coming on.
Yeah, that'd probably be a good idea.
It might be another whiskey tit person. Could be a saggy meniscus. Actually, I think this one is a press we haven't covered yet.
Ooh, nice.
Maybe.
Cool.
I could be full of shit. Probably am.